In 1993, I went to Bairnsdale to hear a man preach. His name was Bob Boots. He was the Assembly of God pastor at the church there. One of the best preachers I've ever heard. He preached a sermon on Luke chapter 7, beginning at verse 11, and it's Jesus' visit to the city of Nain. I can still remember that sermon. I can remember the outline. I can remember the illustrations, because he was such an effective preacher. As you look at that passage now, I want you to consider a number of things. There are two crowds. There are two sons. The widow's son, who has died, is called her one and only son. And then there is the allusion to two destinies. There's life and there's death. It's a sermon it's a passage of scripture that seems to come with an inbuilt outline. But there is a temptation there when dealing with that truth to rush ahead and design a sermon. If you do that, then you've missed the most important point. And it is this. What is the big idea? What is the big idea of this passage? Do not write an outline until you've worked out the big idea. Don't come to the question until you've written your big idea. Now, in filmmaking, when a writer writes a movie, he has to be able to say in 10 words, in 10, maybe 12 if you want to stretch it out, what your big idea is. What is the story? What is the teaching? What is the message that you're trying to get across? Now, I've preached this sermon. I've preached it many times. And I've preached an outline. I haven't preached a message. In fact, one of my teachers came up to me and he said, "Jeffrey, you preach very good outlines. One day you might learn how to preach a good sermon." And that was because I didn't take the lesson that I'm trying to give to you today. You need to know exactly what it is you're trying to say. And in this passage of scripture, Luke, who is writing a story about Jesus, wants to show us that we have choices. We can choose which crowd we want to go with. We can follow the crowd that's following the dead guy, or we can follow the crowd that is following Jesus. We can choose a son. We can choose the one that has died, or we can choose the author of life, who is Jesus. And then it's almost as if it's an undercurrent. It's a truth that's there. And it is this: you can choose your destiny. You can choose resurrection. You can choose life. Or you can just choose to end your life and die without Christ and without hope. So here is my big idea. You get to choose. You get to choose. It's simple, but it is what Luke is trying to say to us. You get to choose. The big question, of course, is, what are my choices? And we've just outlined them there in the outline. And then your conclusion is this: choose Jesus. Naturally, as a preacher, as a Christian, and as a believer, that's what you're trying to get people to do. To put Jesus first and to make him your first choice. And naturally then, the key word, it's all about choices, isn't it? It's a simple sermon, and when Bob preached it all those years ago, it left a deep impression on me.